Welcome, Vikki, or should I say the Priestess of Darkness, or whatever. I'm actually a little bit glad that there's quite some distance between us because the last few days, also I've seen you being very active on Twitter with a Danish flag. So I feel a little bit protected here behind this webcam. So what is that all about, Vikki? Because you are the Priestess of Darkness. Maybe you learned a little bit of cursing from Danhausen, who knows, but please enlighten us a little bit about that.
About my dark magic or my hatred for Denmark?
Both, actually.
Well, the hatred for Denmark is, we Scandinavian countries, we've always had this kind of rivalry against each other. And I do have that rivalry for both Sweden and Denmark. But, there's the very Norwegian part of me that, reflects on Norwegian culture and specifically our language and how... the language that is kind of our written language and the dialect that I speak has been very heavily influenced by Danish, ruling over Norway for 400 years. So I'm a very bitter person. I hold grudges. I never forget and I never forgive. So I go extra hard in on Denmark because of that.
Okay. A little bit more knowledgeable about what it's all about, but we could probably talk about that subject for hours, I think, because I can feel a little bit of grudging underneath there, some itching or something like that.
Yes.
But let's go back to what this is actually about. The Priestess of Darkness, or should I say manager or wrestler, because I'm a little bit confused about the mixed signals that I'm sensing when I have to admit, I have been stalking you a little bit online, so...
Well, I should hope so.
Bear with me.
I am a manager and I am a wrestler. I started as a manager, mostly because, the female division in Norway is next to nothing. So I think they were a little bit confused of what to do with me to begin with, but... when I first started, the very first Norwegian wrestling show that I went to after I had passed my entrance test and the tryout, I actually had to. I couldn't attend this show in itself. I was there to put up the ring and be in ring practice, but I couldn't actually watch the show because I had promised a friend of mine I would watch her compete in a pinup competition. And so I was getting all dressed and I was putting on my regular makeup like this and a very satanic dress with Baphomet on it. And Ruslan, the Norwegian nightmare, saw my dress and was like, "That is so fucking cool. You have to be my manager." And, it started out as a joke, but we very quickly formed a bond and realized that we were very much similar people, both in personality, but also style and aesthetics and that sort of thing. So that became our game plan throughout all of my practice. It was I was going to be his manager and we were going to get me out there and I was going to be able to be myself because he really liked this dark and edgy side of me that I also myself wanted to have in wrestling. And it was very nice to kind of have him, supporting me because it's not always that you get to make your own character and do everything 100% your way. No. I mean, things are better now, but I have heard stories of previous women in the division who didn't really get a big say on what they were going to be or even what they were going to be called. So I was very grateful to have him by my side to support me in this because I wasn't too secure in myself, and I didn't feel like I was in any position to demand anything. So to have Ruslan with me along this way was very helpful to get me to be a little more confident in myself and my abilities, and that my ideas are good and what I want to do is totally legit.
Yeah. But let's take it a little bit back. You were talking about the Norwegian wrestling scene, and it was quite small compared to women wrestlers, but that's all around in the Nordic scene as well. But what is it like? When did it all start for you? You say you were telling about with Ruslan, but when did it start for you as a wrestler? Your first match, take us back to that. And tell us a little bit all the way up to when you stood in the ring.
Since I was a manager, I actually got to step in the ring a couple of times before I actually had my match, and that was very nice.
Yeah.
I got to, hit a couple of people with my dark book full of spells, sabotage a few matches.
So how did they actually react? Because we've seen that cursing is quite a powerful thing in wrestling at the moment. We have this dark wizard, or what can you call him? Danhausen, a very favorite character of mine. Yes. I love that guy.
He's very cool.
He really is good at bringing out the quirkiness in wrestlers, that we see a whole different type of wrestler than all the buff big guys that with chests like brick walls or something like that. We should have, I think wrestling should really show every aspect of wrestler types. Like you, I think that was actually why I contacted you in the first place, because these interviews I really like to show that diversity and everything that wrestling has to offer. And also it's very important for me to show a lot of female wrestlers as well, but they're quite hard to reach in here in the Nordic. So tell us a little bit about that first match. Sorry that I was interrupting you. When I start talking about wrestling, just like a passion, exactly as it is for you. So
I totally understand.
Yeah.
My first match was actually a tag team match with Ruslan against actually another female wrestler, Miss Mina, the Nordic Valkyrie, who has she's one of those semi-retired wrestlers. Like she's technically retired, but she just keeps coming back. With her and a veteran Garmstellen, which Ruslan has had like a 7-year-long feud with now. They finally put an end to last Saturday in a bloodbath.
Oh, nice.
So basically at building up to this match, me and Ruslan had been kind of sabotaging Garm a while. Like they had a few matches here and there, and I would always, cheat a little bit. And when the judge wasn't watching, the referee wasn't watching, I would, make him trip or, spear him for a table.
You had to do.
I did what I had to do to make my client win. And Garm said that you guys have been ganging up on me for so long that I decided to bring some ammunition for myself and brought Miss Mina together with him in the ring. And I think that it was a very nice match to have as a first match. Cool. I was very scared, and I'm very glad that I had the opportunity to have like a actual tag match and not a solo match as my first, because I do get a little bit of a blank mind when I get stressed and can't necessarily remember everything. So being able to have those like pauses in between really helped me. And I only botched like one thing, but you couldn't really notice it.
But that's normal to do that, because I think if you look at the wrestling scene, it's like everyone botch or misses a move sometimes.
It happens.
But you have to learn from it. That's the most important part, I actually think. So you will get better eventually.
Luckily I had a lot of feedback from other wrestlers and people in the crowd that it was a good match. Some of the I remember one of the wrestlers told me that their friend in the crowd thought that I actually was hired talent from out of the country, and I was like,
nice.
Oh, thank you.
Bring some more.
Yeah. Give me more.
Yeah.
It was very nice.
That's good.
That being said, went to a like all-female wrestling seminar in Finland in the beginning of 2020, like a month before the pandemic like really hits. And we learned a lot about, the building of matches, like the theory behind how you build up a match and like the storyline and all of that, like the technique behind it and the thoughts. And, after being there, I looked back at my first match and was like, oh, it didn't really make sense at some points, like story-wise, like how you structure a match.
Exactly.
But, other than like that thing, it was a very nice match to have. And the thing that I really liked about it is that we did have an intergender aspect of it. It wasn't like when I tagged out and Ruslan tagged in, then Mina had to tag out.
So there was a good interaction between genders instead, because that's a thing sometimes is the problem with intergender matches. You have to do have to wrestle with the same gender instead of trying to evolve that and going beyond that.
It's not like a real intergender match if none of the genders like interfere between each other. So that was something that I really appreciated. And Norway isn't, I'm not going to say that Norway is the best when it comes to like intergender stuff, because obviously that's Finland. They have a very good attitude about this that I really admire. And they've been working very hard to both get their female division to be taken seriously and get like the same opportunities, but also to like normalize intergender wrestling to the point where they don't call it intergender anymore. It's all just wrestling. And I really admire that. But Norway has also had its, backgrounds with intergender wrestling. I remember having read some newspaper articles and heard from the others that when Miss Mina started, obviously she's the first Norwegian female wrestler, so there weren't anyone else for her to wrestle, so she would wrestle the boys. So there is like a story there in our history that we luckily have had that. So they weren't like very opposed to it. They were a little worried about how the crowd would react. I remember that wasn't the match, that was actually the match that led up to this match. Where I think it was probably Ruslan versus Garm, and we had planned a spot where Garm would clothesline me after I had gotten in the ring, and they were a little worried about how people would react to that. But at this point, I had been a huge dick and an awful person to Garm, and I've been doing so much shit through so many like shows that everybody was just so ecstatic that finally I got what was coming to me. That bitch got what was coming to her. She can't keep getting away with this, and they were just so happy. So I think that also made, the Norwegian Wrestling Federation more secure in setting us up in that intergender match. And then the match I had after that was also a tag team match, but against two guys. And they were also a little bit like worried, should we have the baby face maybe like refuse to hit you because you're a woman? And both me and him, Rayo Flores, we were like, no, that's stupid. We're not going to do that. And luckily after the match, they said, yeah, you're right. Doing it your way was the best way.
But actually, that's the way of character building that's so important, that if the audience believe in your character, it's like, surely you can hit a woman in wrestling, no problem.
Yeah.
Because it's character-wise, if it fits in the storyline, there's no problem in my eyes as well that you do that kind of stuff. Because you shouldn't really do any differentiates if it's a woman or a man in the ring fighting or something like that. You can do actually what you want to do in a wrestling ring if your storyline fits that storytelling.
I think it's all about psychology in how you do it and what you want out of it. There are plenty of ways to make the women not look like weak and defenseless. because, you know, when you have the premise of these are, you know, adults that are aware of the risks and what they're doing, they agree to the terms of the match, then you can't really like fault them for it. There was, because I remember some people had brought up moments in like many years ago where Miss Mina was like jumped by two guys, two heels who just came out of nowhere and attacked her, and the crowd felt that that was very uncomfortable to watch.
Okay.
Which I can understand, because, you know, it's kind of unprompted violence, like in, not like an actual match, but as you know, as long as you kind of try to make a story out of it and you kind of justify it, you know. For me, it was very easy to get people on the side of the people beating me up, because I was already very hated and they just want to see me get beat up, because I've been dodging that for so long. But you could have, like, if I was the face, you probably could have done like I'm giving them what's coming to them, or maybe they could have given me like the underdog storyline. There's lots of ways to make it work. And I think that when a lot of people say that, you know, intergender wrestling is just not realistic, you just, for me, the unrealistic parts is just when it comes to size and how you like make that happen. Because I'm not a tall woman, I'm below average height for Norwegian women, but I've heard that I'm like above height for a lot of girls outside in Europe, like they're very small, that I've been told. So I could be large compared to them, but, you know, if you have like a very tall person, a very big person versus a very small person, you can't just have the small person lift them up and be like super strong. You have to be smart about how you build the match and how they're realistically going to take down the other person. But I think that most people that, you know, do intergender matches and coordinate intergender matches, they usually do get this very proper. I remember that alpha female Jassy Gabbard, she tweeted once like, oh, intergender wrestling is just unrealistic, and she had tweeted a picture of her fighting our Norwegian Espen Olsen and said, yeah, in real life he would get his ass handed to him and die. Something along those lines, because he's a very talented wrestler, but he's not very big. He's not like big and beefy, and she's like a monster. She would have decimated him.
Exactly, or crushed him in a bear hug or something like that.
Oh, easily.
But I think for me also, I know a little bit about the Norwegian scene because some of the wrestlers from Denmark has been traveling up there. But your take on the Norwegian scene right now, because there's been a lot happening because of COVID, but what is the temperature on the Norwegian scene right now?
Well, it's on the way to, it's kind of like building up again, because Norway has been incredibly strict when it comes to Corona. Like, I think we had at least like a year or a year and a half hiatus where we couldn't meet and wrestle at all because of how strict, you know, physical contact in sports and theater was. And then we had a tiny opening for like a few months. We're like, whoa, we can go back and wrestle. And then everything shut down again. So we're kind of like at the point where we're slowly getting back at our feet. Luckily, like a lot of the veterans and older people, it's just in their body to wrestle.
Yeah.
Like they might feel a little bit more fatigued, a little bit faster, but like everything, the muscle memory is still there. So a lot of them are doing very okay, while you know, some of the youngers need a little bit more time to get back to where they are. But unfortunately, like our roster is kind of small these days. Unfortunately, for different reasons. We have a couple of people who haven't returned yet after Corona, and we have some that was like so close to debuting before Corona hits so that kind of have to go back to the drawing board a little bit and just get back there, because we only get to train like once a week because of our location and when it's available. So we don't get to train
that
much. No, so it takes us longer to get back. But it seems like, at least the Norwegian audience are very hyped to see wrestling back. So we're
cool.
very excited to be back.
Cool. But I know there's one. How many promotions is there in Norway?
Well, there are only two. There's Norwegian, or I'm not sure how you would
just say it in Norwegian.
Norges Wrestlingforbund, which is kind of like it's an Oslo-based wrestling company, and kind of like the main. And then you have Norwegian Elite Wrestling, which is run by Eric Isaacson, the icon.
Yes, exactly.
Who he kind of travels around. That's kind of his thing. We stay in Oslo. He travels around. He, gets booked at like student festivals or events and that sort of thing. So, he drives like 8 hours up to Trondheim, 8 hours to Bergen with his ring, and brings along with him the wrestlers of Norwegian Elite Wrestling. And it's kind of the same wrestlers, so we're not like a competition. We're not in competition with each other. It's mutual working together.
So a good collaboration between those two,
Yes.
So it's not as divided as you probably know in Denmark.
I've heard a lot about the Danish different promotions, and also the Swedish. There's a lot more competition amongst you guys that I've heard, and it's I understand it, but it's also kind of sad because you should, in my opinion, which is kind of maybe like uncharacteristic of me, but I think that everybody should work together because it will make wrestling better overall.
Yeah, exactly. But in Denmark, there's, as I say, it's the parking lot of big egos that's standing around. So that's probably, I think it's going to take some time, maybe not in our lifetime, but maybe somewhere down the line, those egos actually can start to sit down and talk, because I think it's probably a mixture of, I think our product is better than yours, and we cannot see any benefits from cooperating with you. So why should we? And Body Slam is a breakout of DPW, and Nordic Elite Wrestling is a breakout from CCW. So, but I'm trying to be as neutral as I can, doing some interviews for Nordic Elite Wrestling and CCW. Was out there. There was a great grudge match where they fought all around the place. I don't know if you have seen some pictures from it. It was chaos.
I have. I have.
Yeah. Great match, because great storytelling, even though they haven't fought that much. But I think you could actually, if you could unite all the wrestlers and do one big show a year, and maybe all the others could do their stuff all the other month as well. It could benefit Danish wrestling, but I think that's a long time for that.
Yeah. And besides, Denmark is such a small country, like area wise.
Yeah.
So I think that there might be something in there that it's, you're kind of competing for the same audience. Maybe. Yeah. I'm not sure where like exactly, or all the different promotions are. But it's Denmark. How far can it be between? Like 5 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes or so. Who's counting, Vikki?
Yeah.
So, no one is actually counting. But I think for me now, we should go a little bit back to the wrestler. What will the future bring for Vikki Noctem?
Ooh. Good question.
Or enchant, or what can you say?
Well, I know for certain that at least, me and Ruslan are going to keep working together with our dark forces, and we're trying our best to like recruit new members of our small cult. So my dreams for the future is to have like a bigger stable, and like an actual stable, and not just me and Ruslan being the dark and mysterious figures of the Norwegian wrestling scene. So I'm hoping to be able to expand my empire. I've kind of expanded to Sweden. I've got myself some nice co-workers there, or minions, with a couple of guys there. So that's the dream, and I do want to be able to have a couple of matches abroad. But I know that I am, I'm a hobby wrestler. I'm not going to try to do this like super professionally or travel, like move to another country to do it, because I really like Norway, and I really like the people here. So I don't want to leave them at any cost. But I do want to, make a name for myself outside of all the Twitter feuds and the Twitter beef in the Nordic countries, and be able to travel to the different promotions here and there a bit more.
I think you should actually look to Denmark, because there is some dark entity walking around the Danish soil at the moment.
Ooh.
Gabriel Faust.
Yes,
him?
Yes.
He's awesome, if you ask me. So you should actually try and convince him, maybe enchant him a little bit.
Maybe we can work together.
Yeah, it could be nice seeing you in Denmark as well.
I have to get to Denmark, because I've been talking so much shit about Denmark that I kind of have to come there and talk shit to you guys directly, so that you know how much you suck.
Exactly.
So, Body Slam, if you're listening, book me.
You could actually say, Body Slam, if you're ready for some dark magic, you know where to find it.
I hope you have a Norwegian board, then you know how to call me.
Yeah. But I think this should actually be the closing line for now, Vikki, because we could talk a lot about everything. And for me, it's like, I think I'll try and keep it as tight as possible for around half an hour. So if you have some last words for the Danes, now is your time to talk. Or if you just want to cast a spell or something, it's all up to you, Vikki.
Denmark, I'm coming for you, and it's going to be when you least expect it.
Watch out. Body Slam, CCW, Nordic Elite Wrestling, and Danish Professional Wrestling. There's the Dark Priestess is coming. See you. And thank you so much. Vikki, if you have a picture or two for me, I could use as promotion when I put it up, I will really appreciate it.
Yeah. So. I can send you a couple of some promo pictures and some match pictures, and you can just
That will be
choose
awesome.
what you want.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. It's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
If you have someone else in Norway that you should think I should talk to for an interview, feel free to throw them my way.
I'll send you a list. Because there's we're not a lot of people here in Norway, but the people that are here are very good.
So I would really like to give everybody from the Nordic countries some time to tell their stories, because I don't think there's so many that has enough focus on the Nordic scene.
Oh, we're very small. We're old but small, so it's we're kind of like the hidden ancient forces that lies in wait to be discovered.
Exactly. But thank you so much, and hopefully we'll talk again, and hopefully you will not curse me.
Yeah, hopefully I'll see you in person someday.
Yeah, we will, for sure. If you're coming to Denmark, the chances are quite high then.
I will let you know. Thank you so much for inviting me. This has been very nice.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your time. The pleasure's been all mine. So keep up the good work, Vikki.
Thank you. You too. I'll see you later. Bye.